Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining me today for Stay Free with Russell Brand. If you're watching this anywhere other than Rumble, unless you're part of our beloved locals community, you're making, well, I don't know what to call it, an error, because you might be watching this on X. You might be watching this on YouTube, but support us on Rumble, our home, where we can stream and speak so freely about complex issues like the implosions within the democratic media institutions, i.e. former Young Turks losing their mojo for the perspectives that once held their world together. All is imploding. All is in collapse. All is in chaos. But out of chaos, of course, emerges opportunity like this. John Fetterman vows to work with Elon Musk. And these are the kind of relationships, let me know in the comments and chat if you agree with this, that could help us to rebuild a new paradigm, not founded on the principles of tribalism, not founded on the kind of motivations that you suspect have been running government for a very long time. New, awakening, emerging ideas. We'll be on YouTube and X for about 15 minutes. Then we'll be exclusively streaming on that sweet home of free speech that we call Rumble. Let's have a look at John Fetterman vowing to work with Elon.
Do you see yourself ultimately working with folks like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, who will be heading?
Yeah, I admire Mr. Musk. He's been involved in very important parts of American society, AI, SpaceX, and other kinds of things. Yes, he's on a different team, but that doesn't make me an enemy. I don't automatically going to become a critic. It's like, hey. He has made, he's made our economy and our nation better, and our politics are different, and I don't agree with some of the things that he might say.
Yeah, and what does it mean when these old institutions fall apart, whether they are media or political? Does it mean, let me know in the comments and chat if you agree with this, that actually, whilst this has been a divided time, I loved that conversation that Trump had with that journalist where she said, America's very divided. And he goes, well, Joe Biden's still president. Did you see that? Joe Biden's still president. I agree with you. It is divided. Amazing. Will you concede 2020? No, I won't. His virtues and his principles, whatever they are, it's more resonant and more real than what's been surrounding it. Let's have a look at Young Turks Anna Kasparian telling Piers Morgan that she too is abandoning the tribal affiliations that appear to be an impediment to honesty and openness.
When I look at my life right now and I ask myself, which political party has made my life worse? It's not the Republican Party. Locally speaking, the Democrats have complete control and they have nearly destroyed my family's livelihood. Okay, we are living in trash and squalor everywhere. And unless the Democratic Party actually acknowledge these issues and solve these issues, rather than stealing our taxpayer money and funneling it to their nonprofit friends, they keep doing this, they're going to keep losing. And I'm going to keep speaking out against them. I don't care how much they hate Trump. I don't care how naughty the Republicans are being. Right now, the people having a negative impact on my life is the Democratic Party, and they need to change their ways. When we say we want to change the status quo, it doesn't mean we want to live in anarchy. It doesn't mean that we want to have $24 billion of our taxpayer money in California stolen by these nonprofits. It means that we want working people to be rewarded for their hard work. We want affordable housing. We want better working conditions, higher wages, better health care. These are things that Democrats used to purport to want to do. They don't do any of it anymore. And so I'm done with them until they change their ways.
Yeah. I completely understand it.
Let me know in the comments and chat, do you see that as a kind of maneuvering to remain relevant, or do you see it as a kind of epiphany? And on the subject of epiphanies, where did the most significant one in human history take place? Surely on the road to Damascus. And we'll be talking about more revelations and a deeper understanding of Syria and events out there and how it connects to you, your taxes, and legacy media's presentation of reality, which we know and have known for some time we cannot trust. Indeed, many of the denizens and occupants of those old institutions are coming out, fleeing, coming out as sympathizers with new ideals, whether it's Fetterman or to see Micah on MSNBC interviewing Jeffrey Sachs, that old war horse of openness and honesty, tells you something is shifting and changing. Can we trust it? Can we trust them? But I suppose I have to be honest, don't I? Because I was a person who in 2015 said, Donald Trump, nah, man. And I'm a person that still, that still believes that there have to be significant, both managerial, bureaucratic, administrative and political changes, but those changes won't be relevant and won't stick unless they're undergirded by deep, profound spiritual change. And we'll be talking about how that can be achieved over the course of the week, because we've got Callie Means coming on the show. Brilliant. You're going to love that conversation. And we've got Dr. John Campbell, one of the most important voices during the pandemic period, who is available to our Awaken Wonders. That's our locals community right away now. Let's post a link in the chat over to that. Immediately, please, if that's possible. So we're going to be covering as best we can the news at depth from people that have been telling you the truth for quite a long while the institutions of media were telling you to mask up and shut up. These people were being extremely honest and open. But is there anyone that's been more responsible for the change in our mistrust of institutions and our ability to oppose them with real information and real evidence than Julian Assange? I'd say there probably isn't. Before we get to Julian Assange's unique foresights when it comes to what's happening in Syria right now, let's have a quick message from our partners today. It's Go Mining.
Do you know what Donald Trump's big comeback means for the United States beyond the obvious radical changes? His return definitely means a shift towards a more crypto-friendly landscape. You'll have seen the way crypto is responding, right? Now is the moment to find ways to dive into crypto on your terms. And guess what? There's a way to do it. Go Mining is redefining how people earn Bitcoin. With their platform, you don't need to buy and set up expensive equipment. Instead, you can own a digital miner that represents a share of real mining power. It's essentially buying your piece of the Bitcoin mining pie, but without the stress of setting up rigs, handling maintenance, or paying those soaring electricity bills. And you can start with just $25 actually. Here's what's even cooler. Go Mining and Stay Free are teaming up for a special offer. The first 50 people who buy $100 worth of miner using the code Stay Free, all caps, will receive an exclusive digital miner from Stay Free as a gift. Once you own one, you can upgrade it to earn more rewards. This ain't just an NFT that sits around looking pretty. It's a real income generating asset that you can hold, grow, or sell if you decide it's time to move on. So if you're ready to dip into Bitcoin mining, check out Go Mining. Use the code Stay Free, all caps, for a 5% discount at checkout. But hurry, that code is only valid for the next 10 days.
Whoa, what an opportunity to accumulate crypto wealth at a time where that seems to be what you should be doing, to be just responsible, actually. Are you invested? Are you going to invest in the manner that I've invested? Take advantage of that special offer. Why don't you? Now, let's engage with the perspicacity of the great Julian Assange. Here he is in 2017 talking about how Syria would likely unfold. And because of independent media and because of great forebears, near prophets like Assange, we're able to look back at content like this, information like this, I suppose I should say, with a new understanding of what's happening right now in Syria, and in particular note how it's being reported.
Be aware, but there is a serious conflict between, say, Donald Trump, one of his strategic advisors, Steve Bannon, and other people around them, and the Central Intelligence Agency and some of the other U.S. security agencies. Quite a serious conflict where they are pushing to preserve their power,
right,
and make the president, not change their policies that they want to keep. What's a prime example of that? I think it is the leading cause of this conflict. It is a policy on Syria.
Right.
The budgetary spend, the number one project of the CIA has been the overthrow of the government of Bashar al-Assad, measured by the amount of their budget that they're spending. So they spend more of their budget on that than anything else.
Right.
So So Trump has a electoral, during his campaign, a policy of not overthrowing Bashar al-Assad, although I don't think he put it explicitly like that, but cooperating with Assad and the Russians to attack ISIS, which essentially means not overthrowing Bashar al-Assad.
Yeah.
So that's creating enormous problems for the CIA, because not only do they have people that have specialized in doing that and risen to positions of power within the Central Intelligence Agency for doing that, but they've made extensive connections and alliances with Saudi Arabia, with Qatar, with Turkey, etc., in order to overthrow that government and to support the forces, internal and external, that are trying to achieve.
Look at where Julian Assange had to go to make those kind of statements and claims, like sort of it's Arabic subtitled. Look at how the media has had to evolve, alter and change. Look at how the dissemination of true information has become easier and has become more enticing and better presented in the time since Julian Assange opened up this new seam of open, honest reporting. And let's remember what it cost Julian Assange, how much time he spent in jail without trial, nearly 10 years in various forms. Look at the kind of accusations he had leveled against him. Look at what he endured and went through. How extraordinary. The world has changed significantly, and we owe Julian Assange a great debt. Indeed, this is a time of transformation, near revolution in some ways. I mean, one of the main topics, in fact, the title of today's show is about Jay-Z and Fauci. When did heroes become viewed from a different light? And is it that they've changed, or has the world changed? How is it? And now, of course, these are just allegations against Jay-Z at the moment. Let's look at them just on the basis of the information that we have so far. But isn't it curious to see someone like Fauci, who was the kind of pinnacle of cultural life, a great and wise patriarch pushed to the forefront and adored, now it's likely that Joe Biden may have to pardon him before Bobby Kennedy and Jay Bhattacharya and Marty Makary and the new emergent voices in American health take control. Let me know in the comments and chat whether you think Fauci will get a pardon, and if indeed he deserves one. And on the point of Jay-Z, who we'll be talking about later, let me know if you believe that the result of the election means we're going to be learning a lot more about show business insiders and the way they were spending their time. Let me know how deep you think it goes, who you think is involved, and why it seems to be so pervasive. Why is hedonism, and in particular the sort of darker side of hedonism that goes beyond the kind of hedonism that's openly celebrated in our culture, promiscuity, the reduction of the sexual act to a recreational one, to the criminal abuse of people that are not able to give their consent. And of course, I'm in no position to make claims about anybody at all. I'm just looking at this interesting story that appears to be pouring out of the ongoing Diddy revelations. We'll be looking at that later, but for a minute, let's keep our attention on the rather more global aspects of media. I don't want to say just media, but of all of our lives. This is former US Army General Wesley Clark in 2007 explicitly declaring that there was a new American century project, that there was intention to bring down 7 countries. You've probably memorized them by now: Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, and Sudan, finishing it all off with Iran, as if it was a kind of taster menu of global imperialism. It's really good, isn't it, that we can go back and look at stuff like this before getting swept away in the deluge of propaganda that tends to surround the news cycle, leading you to believe that the revolution in Syria is something akin to, I don't know, the Village People and their hit song YMCA taking over Syria. What's really happened, and what were the plans behind it?
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, I guess they don't know what else to do.
Oh no, they're just like us. Maybe there's some ulterior, occultist, even satanic components to the way that power operates in ethereal realms that are difficult to identify. But when it comes to human power and human decisions, do notice how often it's just like fallibility. Like, we're going to war with Iraq. Why? We don't know. You've got to wear a mask. Why? We don't know. You've got to go inside your homes. Why? We don't know. You've got to take this vaccine. Why? We don't know. We're at war now with Russia. Why? We don't know. In fact, we're not even admitting that we're at war with Russia. In hindsight, and not even that much hindsight, a couple of decades later, it's okay to admit that the war in and against Iraq was a construction, a confection, a contrivance designed in order to achieve ulterior goals that weren't really understood even by the military top brass that were enacting them. So what do you imagine, let me know in the comments and chat, is happening in Syria right now? How do you bring together what Julian Assange has revealed and what that former general has revealed and apply that to your understanding of contemporary news media, bearing in mind the knowledge of how they amplify or obscure information dependent on the goals of the powerful for whom they truly work? Let me know in the comments and chat.
So I said, well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda? He said, no. He says, there's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq. He said, I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments. And he said, I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail. So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
Firstly, if you can have an agenda that bypasses and transcends administrations, let me know in the comments and chat what that tells you about the nature of elections. It's almost as if the election cycle is not a significant enough shift in power to interrupt the trajectory of the powerful. If Bush is in office, this is the agenda. If Obama's in office, this is the agenda. How long do you think that goes on, and how deep do you imagine that it runs? We have got to train ourselves to recognize the patterns that have been laid out before us now. Before we blithely agree that there's this new LGBTQ Qaeda, this new relaunched version of Al-Qaeda that's friendly and progressive and fun in the sun for everyone, let's remember the times we've been lied to in the past. Do you agree with me? It seems pretty important and pretty clear that we remain awake and open to the possibility that what they do in effect, and when I say they, I mean these institutions of power, whether they're military, media or judicial, is legitimately veil and obscure truth so that they can continue, of course, to carry out whatever their agenda happens to be. In the instance of Syria, seems to be part of a global agenda that's probably about, I don't know, resource control, military strategic matters to do with the great conflict likely to unfold between your country, the United States of America, and Russia and China. So it's pretty, it's near impossible not to consider that the Ukraine-Russia conflict is connected to that. It has similar tropes, doesn't it? It's like you don't feel that you're quite being told the truth about how the conflict began, why it began, who the goodies are, how it operates. All we can actually agree on is it's kind of ridiculous that human beings have to continue to be slaughtered so that this extraordinary agenda can be met by people who claim to be governing on our behalf and in order to protect and preserve us, and seem to be benefiting in ways that are like beyond detrimental. I mean, the word I'm going to use is ultimately sacrificial. That we're being sacrificed for something doesn't seem to make sense to me. If you've got any ideas about it, let me know in the comments and chat what they are. And if you're watching this anywhere other than Rumble, remember to support us over on Rumble, where we do our best work and we speak freely. In fact, we're going to leave you on YouTube before I get into the next story. Jay-Z and Diddy. At the moment, I consider this is somewhat speculative and maybe even just gossip. But people are saying that Jay-Z is about to be fingered in the ongoing, forgive that word, Diddy investigation investigations. Click the link in the description, get over to Rumble, and let's discuss together why, in the wake of Trump's victory in the last election, we seem to be learning apace that there are extraordinary cases within the world of show business and in the upper echelons of power in general that point to deep, mysterious and disturbing levels of corruption, exploitation and crime.